The Galactic Council had waited centuries for this moment, humanity's official induction into the interstellar community. The summit was set on Zira Prime, a neutral oasis known for its towering crystal spires and calm twin suns, often used for ceremonial events that favored diplomacy over displays of power. This was where new civilizations were welcomed, molded and slowly folded into the Council's intricate web of politics, trade, and unspoken dominance. Alien diplomats from across the galaxy gathered in ornate halls, wearing traditional robes, exosuits, or bioluminescent adornments representing their homeworlds. The air buzzed with expectation and mild condescension. Earth was the newest spacefaring civilization after all, primitive, emotionally volatile, and naive by galactic standards. No one truly feared them. Among the senior diplomats was Charek Velkarn, a seasoned ambassador from the Virax Dominion, who had overseen the assimilation of 5 lesser species into Council control. He was accompanied by Counselor Yelnatha, a tall telepathic empath from the Thrill Syndicate, who viewed humanity as a predictable species, eager to be seen, desperate to be included. They expected a shuttle, a modest diplomatic envoy, a few idealistic humans offering goodwill and cultural trinkets, perhaps seeking trade deals or protective treaties. The Council had pre-written agreements ready, ones that would give Earth access to advanced technologies in exchange for resource, rights, labor arrangements, and quiet compliance with galactic norms. It was all standard protocol. But what arrived was not protocol. The first sign something was wrong came when long-range orbital sensors detected a vessel emerging from FTL. It wasn't a diplomatic transport. It wasn't small, sleek, or unarmed. The data feed sent back a mass reading that dwarfed even the Council's largest cruisers. Then came the visual, a black behemoth, wedge-shaped, bristling with cannons, shield emitters glowing faintly across its hull. The UNS Cataclysm, no insignias of peace, no ambassadorial markings, just a name and a chilling silence. Panic spread across the Zira summit. Every species military liaison scrambled for data, defensive positions, or emergency FTL protocols. The Cataclysm wasn't broadcasting standard diplomatic clearance. It wasn't responding to hails. It merely drifted into high orbit over Zira Prime and held position, its weapon systems cold, but unmistakably armed. Counselor Yelnatha tried to calm the chamber. "This must be a miscommunication," she said aloud, though her psychic pulses carried uncertainty. Primitive minds often equate presence with strength. But Charek Velkarn knew better. He had seen a similar maneuver once, a century ago, by the Varnock swarm. But even they hadn't dared do it here at the Council's heart. This was no mistake. Earth had received the Council's invitation, and had chosen to respond not with diplomats, but with a dreadnought. And then, the ship finally spoke, no voice, just a message transmitted across all frequencies. "You requested humanity. This is our answer. No further explanation. No demands. Just a statement. A warning wrapped in ambiguity." The Galactic Council, for the first time in recent memory, was shaken. This wasn't fear of war. It was the fear of the unknown, of a species that didn't play by the established rules. In that single silent moment, every assumption about Earth shattered, and above Zira Prime, the Cataclysm simply waited. Not for permission, but for acknowledgement. Above Zira Prime, the UNS Cataclysm loomed like a judgment passed down from the void, unmoving, unblinking, and wholly indifferent to the waves of panic echoing across the Galactic Council chambers. Below, the Council had seen warships before, but not like this. Unlike the sleek, decorative flagships of the Virax or the elegant biological cruisers of the Thrill, the Cataclysm was brutally utilitarian. Matte black armor, sharp-angled hull plating, weapons ports large enough to swallow shuttles whole. It looked like it had been built for one purpose: annihilation. And it remained silent. Counselor Yelnatha had meditated for hours trying to establish a telepathic link. But her mind, accustomed to tapping into the subconscious streams of even the most stoic species, found nothing. The humans on board were shielded, technologically, psychologically, or perhaps both. Either way, they were beyond her reach. That alone unsettled her more than any cannon ever could. Within the council chamber, debate turned to disarray. "This is a declaration of aggression," roared High Speaker Jorik of the Krolan hegemony. "It's a deterrence tactic," argued the softer-toned envoy Trarellan of the Lixari. "Primitive fear theater." Ambassador Charek Velkarn remained, quiet, eyes locked on the orbital display. He had lived long enough to know one truth. The more silent the predator, the more dangerous it was. Back on the Cataclysm, inside its heavily armored bridge, Captain Ilana Voss stood calmly at the command console. A veteran of 6 deep space conflicts, she bore the sharp gaze of someone who had long abandoned illusions of diplomacy when deterrence proved more effective. Her orders from Earth's high command were simple. Attend the summit. Say nothing. Let them react. Voss watched as the alien fleet formation subtly repositioned in Zira Prime's orbit. Defense platforms warmed up. Council patrol craft formed screens. She smiled slightly. They were afraid, but trying not to show it. That's exactly what Earth wanted. In truth, humanity hadn't come for war. They hadn't come for peace either. They came for respect. Something denied to every new species inducted into the Council. The Council saw fresh civilizations as resources, not peers. But humans weren't here to be folded in gently. They were here to set terms. Inside the summit chamber, an emergency meeting commenced. Options were laid bare. Send a peace envoy to the Cataclysm and attempt direct negotiations. Demand immediate withdrawal under interstellar law. Mobilize a council fleet and prepare for confrontation, but none of those options felt safe. Finally, the thrill empath, Yelnatha, spoke again. "They are doing what we never expected," she said quietly. "They're not demanding. They're not attacking. They're watching. And in that silence, we are showing them who we really are. Nervous, divided, unsure." Karek nodded. "They've baited us into revealing our weaknesses, without a single shot." The decision was made. A neutral shuttle, unarmed, bearing the banner of the Galactic Council, would be sent to the Cataclysm. On board would be a single diplomat, someone capable, respectful, and aware that this was no longer a summit. It was now a test. And above them all, the UNS Cataclysm waited, motionless, its silence echoing louder than any threat. The Galactic Council's delegation shuttle, a sleek vessel of white and gold bearing the sigils of all member species, ascended slowly toward the looming silhouette of the UNS Cataclysm. From orbit, the human warship resembled a dead god's blade, massive, sharp, silent, and so cold it seemed to steal warmth from the stars themselves. Inside the shuttle, Envoy Valrix Thon of the Sireni Confederacy adjusted his collar with trembling hands. His species was known for tact and diplomacy, not courage. He had negotiated peace between warring moons, pacified tyrant kings, and soothed egos large enough to distort local gravity. But none of that prepared him for the Cataclysm, because this warship did not speak. It did not respond to hails. It simply opened a hangar bay and waited. As the shuttle entered the yawning steel maw of the ship, Valrix felt a weight settle in his chest. The hangar was massive, yet sterile. Not even automated drones moved to receive him. The human ship offered no red carpet, no greeting, only the low hum of distant reactors and the ever-present sensation that someone was watching. The shuttle landed. The ramp extended. Valrix stepped out, spine stiff, eyes forward, careful not to display weakness. Then they appeared. 4 armored figures in matte black exosuits stepped into view. Their movements were precise, their weapons holstered but obvious. Each wore a reflective visor, rendering their faces unreadable. Behind them walked a 5th figure. No armor, no helmet, only a charcoal gray uniform with silver insignia. Captain Ilana Voss. She stopped exactly 5 paces from Valrix and stared. Not coldly, not warmly. Just analytically, like a tactician, weighing the importance of a single chess piece. Velrix bowed deeply, tentacles coiling in respect. Captain Voss, I come on behalf of the Galactic Council to walk with me, Voss said flatly, turning without waiting for a response. The envoy hesitated, then followed. Their steps echoed through metal corridors too utilitarian to be welcoming. No attempt at comfort had been made. The cataclysm was not a ship. It was a message. I was instructed to open peaceful dialogue. Velrix began carefully, watching her. Voss didn't stop walking. Dialogue assumes mutual interest. We have not yet seen evidence the Council views humanity as anything more than a future vassal. That's not true, isn't it? She said, glancing at him. Earth was given no voting rights in the last 3 galactic resolutions. Your diplomats demand resource tributes. For integration and offer protection we don't need. That's not diplomacy. That's colonialism. Velrix opened his mouth but found no defense. She wasn't wrong. Voss stopped in front of a large observation window. Beyond it, the full scale of the cataclysm's forward batteries came into view. Rows of particle cannons, hyperkinetic accelerators, and singularity torpedoes designed to vaporize fleets. Velrix's blood chilled. We didn't come to bargain, Voss said, her voice quiet but firm. We came so you'd understand that the era of human submission is over. Velrix swallowed hard. Then what do you want? Voss finally looked at him. Recognition, respect, and most of all, fear. If we can't have the first 2, we'll settle for the third. Silence fell again, and in that moment, Velrix realized the terrible truth. This ship wasn't here to start a war. It was here to prevent one, by reminding the galaxy that peace with humans would always be preferable to conflict, because if Earth ever unleashed its full strength, no one would survive the fire that followed. Back on Zyra Prime, the Galactic's Council's chamber buzzed with tense whispers and mounting anxiety. Envoy Velrix Thon's transmission had arrived, painting a stark picture of humanity's intentions. The humans aboard the UNS Cataclysm were not here to negotiate typical treaties or offer diplomatic niceties. They had come to assert dominance, not with empty words but with an undeniable presence that demanded respect. Councillor Charek Velkarn rose from his seat, his sharp eyes scanning the assembly. They do not seek alliance, he said grimly, nor do they wish to be coddled or assimilated. They are here to reset the balance of power, to remind us that Earth does not play by the rules. His words ignited a spark of fear among many council members. The Galactic Council had thrived for millennia on a fragile equilibrium built on diplomacy, manipulation, and covert influence. Now, that balance faced disruption by a species that refused subtlety. The debate fractured into opposing camps. Some, like Ambassador Jorik of the Krolin hegemony, demanded immediate military readiness. If we allow this to continue, he warned, we invite chaos and war upon ourselves. Others, including the more cautious Envoy Trarellan, advocated for a softer approach. We must understand their motives fully before risking open conflict. Provocation could lead to disaster. Meanwhile, the Thrill Empath Counselor Yelnatha tried to reach the depths of the human psyche through her powers, but the human's mental shields proved impenetrable, a fortress of silence that left her frustrated and unnerved. Amidst the growing tension, a surprise proposal emerged from an unexpected source. The young and relatively unknown diplomat, Saris Fan from the Jaxari Collective. We must remember that Earth is still new, Saris argued, and perhaps their actions stem from centuries of exclusion and mistrust. If we respond with aggression, we confirm their worst fears and may lose the chance for peaceful coexistence. Her words resonated with several members who feared that war with humanity could unravel the entire council. After all, Earth's technological advancements were staggering. They had already reverse-engineered alien tech and deployed innovations no other species had mastered. If provoked, humans could unleash devastating power that might fracture the galactic order. Still, the Council could not ignore the threat implicit in the Cataclysm's silent vigil. The humans were proving that they would not quietly bow or be absorbed into the existing hierarchy. Instead, they demanded acknowledgement on their own terms. A compromise was reached. A delegation, including Council representatives and a select team of neutral observers, would travel aboard the Cataclysm for direct talks with Captain Ilana Voss. This mission aimed to better understand Earth's true intentions and avoid the catastrophic consequences of misunderstanding. Preparations began swiftly, but every step forward carried immense risk. The Council had no guarantees, no clear path, and no illusions that diplomacy would be easy. As the meeting adjourned, Councillor Yelnatha lingered, her empathic senses prickling. "We face not just a warship," she murmured to Cherek, "but a mirror reflecting our deepest fears, the unknown heart of humanity." Outside, the Cataclysm remained an unyielding sentinel in orbit, a living symbol of a new era, one where peace was no longer assumed, but enforced by the presence of overwhelming silent power, and beneath that shadow, the galaxy held its breath, waiting to see whether humanity would become a trusted ally, a feared rival, or a force that could redraw the stars themselves. The delegation prepared to board the UNS Cataclysm once more, this time with a larger contingent, a blend of seasoned diplomats, military advisors, and scientists. The atmosphere was tense, an uneasy mixture of curiosity, apprehension, and the unspoken understanding that this encounter could determine the fate of the entire Galactic Council. Among the delegates was Saris Van, the young Jaxari diplomat, whose earlier plea for understanding had won her a place on the mission. Alongside her were Ambassador Cherek Velkarn and Councillor Yelnatha, whose empathic abilities, though limited, offered some hope for piercing the human enigma. As their shuttle docked, the cold industrial interior of the Cataclysm welcomed them, not with warmth, but with a stark honesty that disarmed most. Gone were any pretense of hospitality. The ship was a fortress designed for efficiency and survival. Yet beneath the harsh steel surfaces, the delegates began to glimpse the Iasist layers beneath humanity's austere exterior. Captain Ilana Voss greeted them again, her gaze steady and measured. But this time her demeanor was less confrontational and more open, as if a silent truce had begun to form in the shared space of mutual respect and necessity. Voss led them through the ship's bridge, the heart of its terrifying might. Here, holographic star charts flickered, displaying Earth's solar system alongside sectors of the galaxy where humans maintained covert outposts and defenses. "We are aware," Voss explained, "that the Council fears our presence. That fear is justified." The delegates absorbed the weight of her words. For centuries, humanity had lived in the shadows of galactic politics, often underestimated and marginalized. But Earth had survived and thrived on a harsh planet rife with challenges, breeding resilience and ingenuity unmatched by other species. Saris Van stepped forward, voice calm, but curious. "Captain, you speak of fear. What exactly do you want from the Council?" Voss paused, her eyes reflecting a mixture of defiance and vulnerability. "We want acknowledgement, not as subjects or pawns, but as equals capable of shaping the galaxy's future. Our warship is not a threat. It is a statement, a reminder that peace must be earned, and that humanity will never be sidelined again." Councillor Yelnatha focused, her empathic senses more keenly, and for the first time detected flickers of genuine emotion beneath the human's guarded exterior. Determination, pride, and a fierce protective instinct for their home and way of life. The delegation pressed further, asking about Earth's intentions beyond this demonstration of power. Voss spoke of a vision, a future where humanity worked alongside other species, not as inferiors, but as partners with a voice that commanded attention. But she was clear-eyed about the challenges ahead. "We expect resistance. The Council has long benefited from keeping Earth at arm's length. They fear what they don't understand and control. That is why we came not with open hands, but with an undeniable presence." As discussions unfolded, it became evident that Earth's approach was revolutionary. Power wielded not for conquest, but to force a recalibration of galactic politics. Humans demanded respect because they had survived trials no other species had faced, and they would no longer accept dismissal or patronization. By the end of the meeting, the veil began to lift. The delegates glimpsed a species both familiar and alien, a paradox of brutal strength tempered by an unspoken desire for acceptance and peace. The council faced a new reality. Humanity was no longer a fringe player to be managed. They were a force that could shape the future, for better or worse. Outside the ship's viewport, stars shimmered quietly, but the galaxy's balance was already shifting beneath their light. And as the cataclysm prepared to return to orbit, one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. The Galactic Council returned from their meeting aboard the UNS Cataclysm with heavy hearts and restless minds. What they had witnessed was not merely a show of strength, but the birth of a new paradigm, one where humanity would no longer be sidelined or underestimated. The question now was whether this new era would usher in cooperation or ignite conflict. Council chambers, usually a place of measured discourse, buzzed with heated debates. Some representatives argued that Earth's bold stance was a wake-up call long overdue, a necessary disruption to a complacent galaxy built on fragile alliances and hidden agendas. Others warned it was a dangerous provocation, risking all-out war with a species whose capabilities were still largely unknown. Saris Vaughn spoke passionately for cautious optimism. We must not let fear cloud our judgment. Humanity's arrival forces us to confront our own failures, our inability to fully include a powerful new member of our community. If we embrace this moment, we can forge a stronger, more unified future. In contrast, Ambassador Jorak demanded an immediate military buildup, convinced that Earth's cataclysm was a harbinger of domination, not diplomacy. If we hesitate, we invite conquest. Amid this turmoil, Counselor Yelnatha's empathic insights offered a sobering perspective. Humans are complex. Their aggression is often a shield for vulnerability and survival instincts forged in harsh conditions. To understand them, we must see beyond the weapons and warships to the fears and hopes driving their actions. Meanwhile, Captain Ilana Voss returned to Earth's command center orbiting Zira Prime. She was hailed as a symbol of humanity's rise, a living proof that Earth would no longer tolerate invisibility or weakness. Yet even she felt the weight of responsibility. The cataclysm was more than a warship. It was a statement to the galaxy and a promise to her people. Back on Earth, leaders debated how to proceed. Some favored aggressive expansion and dominance. Others pushed for cautious diplomacy and coalition building. The truth was, humanity stood at a crossroads. Their demonstration had unsettled the galaxy, but it had also isolated them. In this fragile moment, an unexpected message arrived from an ancient alien species long thought extinct, the Eldari. They had watched humanity's ascent from afar and now offered a tentative hand of friendship. Their envoy warned of darker forces lurking beyond known space, threats that would require unity rather than division. This revelation shifted the Council's focus. The galaxy's future was no longer just about human integration or dominance. It was about survival in the face of cosmic dangers none had yet faced. As factions within the Council began to reconsider their positions, a summit was called on Zira Prime. Humans and aliens alike gathered not as rivals, but as wary allies confronting an uncertain horizon. Captain Voss stood once more on the deck of the Cataclysm, her eyes scanning the starfield. The warship had served its purpose. It had shattered illusions and forced the galaxy to reckon with humanity's place among the stars. Now, the real test awaited. Could former enemies become partners? Could fear be transformed into trust? Could the galaxy unite before darkness swallowed them all? The answer was unclear. But one thing was certain. The age of quiet diplomacy was over. Humanity had arrived, not just as a new player, but as a catalyst for change, challenge, and perhaps salvation. As the sun set on Zira Prime, a new dawn broke across the galaxy, bright with possibility, shadowed by uncertainty, and charged with the promise of a future shaped by the bold and the brave.